I will start off by saying it started a long time ago, actually 16 years ago to today is when my husband and I actually started dating. And it was the first time we prayed for our relationship, and we knew that God would lead our way. About 8 years into our marriage, he lost a job, and our verse for our family was Jeremiah 29:11, which says, "I know the plans I have for you, says the Lord, plans for good and not disaster, to give you a hope and a future." And to make it, I could go on and on about how we got to this last summer and everything, but long story short, in 2013 we were blessed, honored, and given a wonderful gift of God from God through our little girl Lauren. We were able to adopt her, and she literally was a blessing, a gift from God. She was a child of destiny, a child of purpose. She helped bring together, there were 5 of us in my sibling group. She helped bring us all together. She helped heal a family that was hurting and in distress. So she ended up with RSV when she was only a month old, which rocked our world as well, in the hospital for over a month. And that was when a connection and a bond happened that I just can't even explain between an adoptive mother and a child. She felt like as though I had birthed her. So long story short, we come to October 2016. My parents redid our basement in our house. They moved in with us. My father went and had hip surgery. Lo and behold, his bones literally shattered in the surgeon's hands, and he was then wheelchair bound. A little different retirement than what we had hoped and prayed for my mom and dad. He ended up in April of 2018, he was diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer. And then on June 22nd, I was to open Annie. I was in Annie, I was playing Miss Hannigan, and it was opening night. And that was also the day that my dad went to go be with Jesus. And it was very, very sudden, and it rocked all of our worlds. We were all there. We all got to say goodbye. And it was really a beautiful moment. And then a week later, on July 1st, is when our worlds were completely rocked. And through an accident, through an incident that was just horrific and purely just something that could really happen to anyone, we lost our little girl, our little Lauren. She went ahead, and funny thing is that she was named after my dad. My dad's name is Lawrence, and so she was spelled Lawren. And so just some things from that day that stood out to me was that my initial reaction probably was not that of normalcy. I was in the play. I was in between shows, and a police officer came to get me. And I just remember telling my sister Laura that it's okay and that God is in control. I sang songs of praises in the back of a patrol car going 90 miles an hour. And I remember when I went into that hospital room and I saw my little girl, I remember just saying that no one is to blame. And you know, you think that you want to blame someone and you want to get mad, but why? I literally looked up at my siblings and I told them that if we only got 3.5 years with her, let's not let it be for nothing. And let her legacy be that she brought us even closer. And let us realize that she has a bigger purpose and that we would not allow it to pull us apart. I said that to my siblings. I said that to my husband. We both agreed that we would not allow this to destroy us. In fact, we would allow it to make us stronger and bigger and better. I know that at one point my mom came to the hospital and she asked me if they had given me something because I was so calm and serene, and I just told her no, that Lauren was never ours to begin with. I've never felt like any of my children were necessarily mine. I felt like they were always gifts from God, but especially Lauren. She was just never ours. She was always God's, and she was always a child of destiny. So that's what happened this summer.
So how do you think that you were able to respond that way in that moment? Because like you said, it wasn't normal. Like, what do you think helped you previously in your life to get you to be able to have peace, to be praising God, to not blame someone and not be angry in that moment?
Well, I always said that forgiveness was always God's, and that if God gave his only son to forgive me, why would I not forgive someone else? Like, why? I mean, people do hurt you. You get hurt all the time. Words hurt, actions hurt, but they're only human too. I think also, had it not been who it was that, like what happened, had it not been for the person who was being a hero for our family at the time, it probably would have been a little bit different. But he was being a hero in a time of deep sorrow already, so, yeah.
So how obviously this has changed you into a completely different person going through something like this. So how have you changed? What has God showed you through this? And how are you able to share this story now, right?
Yes, well, the Bible was a big thing. One verse that really helped us was Psalms 35b, weeping may endure for a night, but joy cometh in the morning. And with that, what I really learned was that you can find the joy of the Lord always. That joy is completely different than happiness. I might not be happy every minute of the day, and I'm not. I might have times where I weep in my room, literally, and my children have to come, my other 3 girls come and surround me because they don't understand why mommy's crying. But I can still wake up every morning with joy and know that God is with me. And one thing that really I learned was that you have your mind and your thoughts, which tend to be of the flesh and of the world. And you have your heart, which are your emotions and, still kind of can be of the world. And then you have your soul, which me is your spirit, and that is where you give everything to God and you're covered through his mercy. And so for me, I would always tell Josh that in my soul, I know. And in my soul, I'm good with God, like I know. And so anytime my head would go to those thoughts, or my head would, and my emotions would start to get out of control, or I would wonder why, because it's really stupid to wonder why, because we probably will never know why we were chosen for this road. I think about how my soul is well, that in my soul it is all well. And one thing a verse that Josh and I have always had covering us since 16 years ago, literally, is Psalms 119, 105. Thy word is a lamp unto my feet and a light unto my path. And one thing that Josh has always said about us is that we take hold of the lamp together. And God said it was a lamp. He didn't say it was a flashlight. He wasn't going to flash ahead of you and show you every way. But he's the lamp right here with this puddle right around you, and you're just walking that path. And as long as you're holding on to that lamp with him, that path will light up step by step, day by day. And so that's basically where we are there. So I just wrote that even though I'm still heartbroken, I have joy in my spirit, deep down.
So when we were, Del and I met a couple of weeks ago, we were talking, you had mentioned that you felt like that you understood God a little bit more through this circumstance. Can you explain that a little bit?
Sure, another verse that comes to mind with that is Psalms 91:4. It says, "He will cover you with his feathers. He will shelter you with his wings. His faithful promises are your armor and protection." And so this is where I really think that God, I feel so much closer to God. I feel almost as though he was preparing us for this. There were a lot of, I guess you could call them signs, you could call them whatever, but looking back on it, there were just so many things that showed us that we were about to be almost blessed with having to carry this cross. And there's a book, I was going to mention it later, but there's a book by Levi Lusko, and it's called Through the Eyes of a Lion. And there's a quote that Josh loves, and he talks about how he might have this joy, but he's so sad that he has to have this joy through the Lord. So God, literally, we are blessed. Like, how blessed are we that God chose us to bear this? So that's one thing. But some of the signs, or blessings you could even say, was one was that I wasn't there when this all happened. I was doing a talent that God blessed me with, and I was not there. I told Josh last night, I think if I had been there, I would not be here today probably. And I said he probably would have had to check me in somewhere. I think it just would have been the reality then. Like I said, I think it's a blessing that it was who it was that it happened to. It was my brother, the strongest man, one of the strongest godly men that I know. But what's funny is we had just had a conversation, my brother and I, about marriage and our children getting married. And I said, well, I sure hope that all 4 of my children find a godly man. And and he said, well, statistics, Della, they said 3 out of 4 of your children will have happy marriages or will get married. There's some statistic he found. So that to me was God prepared. So 3 of my 4 will be there. Another thing is that my husband noticed Lauren had a scar on her wrist from when she had RSV, and just literally a month prior to the accident, he asked her, what is that, Lauren? And she said, oh, that's my tattoo. And so he said, oh, well, and he just thought about it, and he said, I better take a picture of this, because you never know when it might just be gone. And so that was another thing that he even claims that was just God working on us and God fulfilling our testimony. And another thing is that my brother-in-law literally a week prior in his Bible study said that he just felt like nothing had happened to our family. Like nothing tragic had really happened to make us cling to God or to each other. So I just feel like we were getting prepared for that.
One of the other things that we had talked about was that you never felt alone during this because of all the people in your life who had been praying for you and supporting you. So can you talk a little bit about the importance of that in your life?
Yes. I think it's very important if you aren't part of a church or even just a group of core friends that you are, because I can't even describe to you the amount of support and love that we felt, even from people thousands of miles away. People in Australia were praying for us, and we felt that. We knew and felt every prayer that was said for us, every thought that came around us. In the times when we didn't think we could cry out to God or pray, we knew we were being surrounded by prayer. I had people come clean my house for me, and that's another thing. To me, if you are going through something, don't be afraid to accept help and love, because it's just a gift that God is giving you. I had people come clean out my fridge. I think one of them still has food in her freezer, so that's ours. We haven't forgotten. But I learned literally that I have to make a choice every single day to wake up and rely on him. Have I done that? No, I have not done that. That's another thing. I have to accept that I am still human. Did I drink too much? Probably, here or there. I mean, I'll admit, Christmas Eve, I had asked my doctor for some medicine to just like take the edge off. I took a little bit too much. My husband was like, "What is wrong with you? If I talk to you on Christmas Eve, I'm sorry." But that's the reality of life, is that at that point I was relying on my flesh and the world. I wasn't relying on God. So when I do, and when I'm fully full of him, it's the most amazing thing. Like I said, I've always been real about, I'm a real person. So, yeah, I just have to accept that I am that, and I will fail. But he's right there. And all I have to do is say his name. I mean, I battled him in the car on the way here. I told him that he would not, that Satan would not reign here today, and that my daughter's legacy would have nothing to do with him, but only Jesus. So, that's just my big thing. I guess I should share. And then with that, Psalms 119, 28 through 30, I weep with grief, encourage me by your word, keep me from lying to myself, give me the privilege of knowing your law. I have chosen to be faithful, I have determined to live by your laws. Yeah.
So as we sort of close out this sort of middle of this year journey, you've got a long way before you. Do you have anything else that you just really feel like you want to share?
There are 2 books, like any type of grief, it doesn't have to be the loss of a child or a parent. It can be, the loss of a job, anything. There are 2 books that I highly recommend. Getting Through the Night by Eugenia Price. One thing I learned from that is that Lauren is still loving us because she has now been completed in God's love. And that really just spoke to me, because I just devastated that I wouldn't be able to hold her again. How would I ever feel her again? And I feel her every day and every moment that I love God, because she is now with God and completed in his love. And whenever I am in communion with him, I'm in communion with her because of that. And then the other book, like I mentioned, one thing that really stuck out to me there is, and this is my hope every day, is that I don't look at it as one more day without her. I look at it as one more day before I get to be with her. And so I am counting down those days. So that's just one thing. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Della, for sharing and for being vulnerable and raw, and for being an encouragement, I think, to me. I was telling her the other day, I feel like you're one of the strongest people in the world, and really she was like, no, it's God. It was totally God in her life that even allowed her to come and share with us this morning and be able to be vulnerable this morning. So I'm gonna pray a quick prayer, and then we're gonna have a song playing, and